Welcome to another episode of the Skadoos Lounge. With me today is I want to say he's an OG. I'm pretty sure he's been here a while. He's been here as long as I've been in this, back and forth type shit. Mr. Red Baron. I believe he's from New York, but we'll also get into that as well. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Long time coming, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see everyone come and go and do what they need to do, and it's always been trying to get some sort of member spotlight going, and I think always been a good way to kind of just get the stream of consciousness out of people's heads.
Yeah, exactly. That's true as well. I feel like also that's what I was gonna say too when we were just talking to Koshi was I think when you hear someone's voice and you kind of get like you put the face to a voice, it really helps you also kind of branch out and feel more comfortable in the chats and then logging in and playing whenever with whoever and
Oh yeah,
stuff
definitely,
like that.
and then occasionally we get the surprise picture from people that that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
people
yeah.
hunt out and hunt down. It's all right. Either way, it's always
To
fun
this
and
day, my
games.
favorite picture is Fink. I think Plim did it or whatever for him, but he's got like the George Washington pose going across the Delaware with
Oh
his
yeah,
fucking natty
I
light.
I think I remember seeing the actual picture that he cut it out from, and that's like I think is very much exactly how I would have pictured or would have wanted to understand how a Florida man would look like, and it just
Yeah,
works
I got him
perfectly.
coming on eventually too. I'm really hoping that yours opens up the leadership to come in and do one. I mean, I know Plem did one with me back in the day, and anyone who's listening to the pod, or even anyone who has listened to the podcast, know Damos was the first.
Oh yeah, I mean,
But
old man, he's got nothing else better to do, right?
yeah, yeah, it just seems like it's harder to break into like people that want to do it from leadership. I don't know if that's like a I don't know. I don't know.
I
We'll
mean,
we'll get to that point.
no, yeah, I get you. I mean, to my knowledge, no one's really been against it. I guess it's more just everyone's got dead tired old man issues. But
So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Who is Red Baron, and
who is
where
Red
do you hail
Baron?
from? What do you do for a living?
Uh,
You know, uh, what
mhm.
are some of your hobbies outside of the 508?
I'm from born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City. Uh,
Brooklyn.
I'm gonna be 30 this year. As much as my voice and cadence kind of gives away to some other thoughts, probably. I'm the IT schmuck for anywhere I go right now. Currently, I work for a community college in New York City in their continuing education department. So, any sort of specialized certifications or industry certifications we do. So that's not necessarily tied to a college major. Um, and I'm basically in charge of, procurement, maintenance, replacements, upgrades, et cetera, for this place because they're not they haven't necessarily hired a full team, and the main team that would take care of them has kind of just like kept themselves, hands off as much as possible because it's a money issue. Yeah. In terms of other things, I mean, like swimming and biking is the stuff I like to do physically. There was a time where I used to like playing football with my friends. Outside of that, love trying to find spicy food and international food. New York City is definitely the place for that. Um, I've been more recently into like mixology stuff, figuring out how to make drinks taste good. Because like when something's nasty, kind of just like doesn't taste well and doesn't want to make me drink it. My family was always a lot of beer drinkers, so
Right.
just kind of
Acquired taste type shit.
oh yeah, you know, just like how the GTA joke plays it off. It's like, oh, it's piss Fossa.
Yeah. So
I mean, yeah, go for it.
yeah, so your IT schmuck. First off, the word schmuck. That's definitely got to be a New York thing. I only
Oh
hear the New
yeah.
Yorkers say that word.
It's schmuck is comes from Yiddish, so like a lot of I would say like Brooklynese or New York type words came from Yiddish, which is like another weird little offshoot of Hebrew and the Jewish community.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of other words that go along with that. One of the new ones that I learned recently when I was trying to, I'll get into this also. I was trying to put on a show was schlemiel. There's a bunch of those words that they're fun to say, and sometimes they just hit harder. But schmuck hits good because you get a little bit of the you get the cousin of fuck on that. It's like, oh,
Right.
you
Yeah, like
fucking idiot.
the uck part.
Yeah, it just hits differently. But yeah, I
So the
Mhm.
The IT shit though, how did you get into IT and what led you to end up working out of college instead of doing like coding or, anything crazy?
Okay, so my dad works for UNICEF, and he was kind of just naturally into technology. He got him he was self-taught to get himself into technology, and like that kind of rubbed off on me in certain ways. I always liked technology, computers and video games, and like when I was figuring out what my major would be when I went to college, I was thinking like, "Oh, the future is either computers or electricity." Unless something devastating happens. So I chose computers. I had a good idea of how stuff worked generally, and that just kind of helped me more to get general knowledge. Oh God, yeah, like when you mentioned the coding thing before, like that was one of the classes we had to take, and I did not like it at all. It was just,
Not a big coder?
it's frustrating, and these days with how AI has developed, and learning things, learning models, large language learning models have evolved. Like you can, if you know how to ask the right questions, you can do very basic coding and get away with it, and not have to like have these giant, monstrosities that people are using.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I went to college locally. I got a decent ride there. I did the IT program there, and then eventually, like halfway through me going there, I started working for them as a student worker, and that got me more experience. And then after I graduated, they actually hired me. So it was good work. I did help desk stuff for a little bit, and then I got to do some back end work as a sysadmin, where I took care of a lot of the reporting that would come out of the school's database and access to the database itself, and some other connections to like other software we would use for like updating classes and financial information. It was a big good exposure to the back end side of the world that like I felt like I needed, because um, before then I was basically lifeguarding on the side for pools and whatnot, and that was like this is not within my realm of work industry, so I figured let's do that pivot to student worker, and that so far worked out well. I was there for 5 years. It was okay, I survived
Right,
to pay
right.
off my debts.
And so do you see yourself continuing to just stay here and rise up to the IT ranks, or do you plan on taking your expertise into your own realm of things, or
Right now I'm actually so that first job, I left it about, you know, it'll be 3 years this December, because I knew the boat was rocking, and I was not entirely sure if I was gonna be able to stay onto it. So I hopped ship, and then about 3 months later after that, half the IT team was cut. Including people whose
damn?
positions were like more senior than myself. So I was like, oh shit, I'm happy I got out and did what I needed to do. But my current job now that I described earlier, it's a bit of a shit show, but I'm living through it. But right now I'm looking to get another job at another place. I'm actually in talks with a private oil company that does like home heating oil stuff. They
Oh,
need to
nice.
do a bunch of modernizations and basically do everything that I did at my previous job at the college that I went to. So like back end reporting, connections and whatnot. So I was like, all right, this works out good and they like what I do. Maybe they'll pay me more and keep me on.
Right, fair. What
So
was it like, going to college in the city?
so the irony is that like I still stayed in Brooklyn. Like in New York, we very much distinguish the city being like the borough of Manhattan.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Uh,
You guys are definitely
s-
boroughs.
yeah, because like all the big skyscrapers are in Manhattan that like you would see on the New York City skyline. So like it was good. Like I got the interaction I needed because specifically where I live, access to the subway is a little hard to get to. So people there's that like I guess that stigma or that I guess that stereotype of like, oh, some people just never leave their small town, and like to some degree, that's what my neighborhood feels like. It's on the southern end of Brooklyn, that like where there's no trains, kind of like whatsoever. So it's always a bus to a train. And the irony is that when the MTA released statistics about the bus lines that have the least amount of passengers on it, it's the bus line that I
Mhm.
take to go to the train. Because like that's how either disconnected it is, or people kind of just shift to driving their car certain places, and like that's a lot of money unless you have
Interesting.
like a decent civil servant job in New York
So
City.
being you said you're about to be 30 years old. So you've been in New York your entire life. Well, so you've been in the Brooklyn borough your entire life as well?
Yeah, basically.
So tell us a little bit about what that's been like. 30 years, New York. I'm sure I mean, fuck, you've been through George Bush, fucking, you know what I mean? Clinton,
I mean,
Obama.
a lot of it was so like when I was younger, I wasn't really as noticeable, because like everyone kind of, unless like your parents are really pushing it on you, or like your parents come from a certain background, like it wasn't really noticeable. Only as I got older and more aware and arguably scared my parents with how I was able to recite history to them, they were like, "Oh no, he kind of knows what's going on," and like that's always kind of stuck with me. Like my parents are more Republican in that sense. And like once I'm able to kind of spout the history that they lived back at them, they were like, "Oh no, okay, this is a little bit more different than what I expected." But I mean, it's not the only thing that prices would go up occasionally, but like if anything, the bigger things that hit the city that's always memorable have been the weather. Like Sandy, Katrina, parts of Katrina. Um, that really fucked the city up. Specifically, like where Hurricane Sandy, like because the sewer infrastructure was bad, they weren't really able to like get a lot of water out of the subway tunnels, and some subway tunnels and train tunnels were closed for God knows how long because it was literally just up to like its ceiling worth of salt water. You know,
Damn.
it's like if you went to Coney Island and there's some apartment buildings there, you can actually see the high water mark where it used to be, and like it's above 5 feet. Like bottom floors of apartment buildings were flooded out, and like it was crazy. Um, Thankfully, like me and my dad have this habit where we would go out and kind of prepare for it. We really early on had like a bad water crisis where a drain got blocked, and now we kind of know where the weaknesses of the house are. Um, the only other issue we have is that the asshole that lives on the corner of my block doesn't clean the sewer grate that's on the corner, and that shit gets blocked up all the time. And then, we're out there in the middle of the fucking rainstorm trying to make sure that, leaves and shit and, sticks don't block the drainage because, like, if it doesn't get cleared out, the whole block floods. And, guy comes out every once in a while. It's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know." It's like, dude, you've been here for like over 10 years and you've got fucking security cameras. Like, you didn't know?
Right.
You got like five
Homeboy's up
people
there
out here.
watching it.
You got five people out here, like doing this shit in the middle of a rainstorm like we're going to a fucking water park. you
Right.
know,
That's insane.
it's yeah, like in most cases, like the neighborhood I have has a salt marsh in it, so like apparently, according to the Parks Department, like that's like a natural barrier to being able to not get flooded. Thank God. But as time goes on, we'll see what happens as climate change hits and negligence and
So that's the
flooding,
only
yada yada yada.
you can't remember any other crazy like I mean obviously 9/11, but like there hasn't been any other major where it's like holy shit, I need to get out of the city type of deal. Like this isn't for me anymore, or is it just
No, I
because
mean
you've
like
always been in your borough?
I'm definitely very much benefiting from the fact I live with my parents still. So I have to live with the fact. No, like yeah, no, like nothing in the city really makes you want to leave it. Do I want to go out and visit other places? Yes. Do I look down on the yuppies that come in and destroy the neighborhood? Of course. Like I'm not. I like it's the issue of gentrification where like people know that there's more people that are coming in with money, so they're gonna push out the people that like make the city run to their own
Right.
detriment. Um, God, like in terms of large things, I mean, like I went to public high school. That was fun because like I grew up going to Catholic private elementary school that a lot of my family and a lot of like people in this part of the neighborhood went to, and like that was starting to die out by the time I was getting to high school, and like public high school just felt right. There was a lot more people. It wasn't clicky. I could kind of like disappear into the crowd if I needed to, and like I feel like part of how I developed my personality happened because of high school. Was there a school shooting? Was there a shooting down the block at the McDonald's? Yes. I had no idea it even happened until like I got called out afterwards. Like
Right.
it wasn't anything that crazy. If anything, the only thing that happened recently that like might be even somewhat tangentially related to was the CEO and the and alleged shooter Luigi Mangione. But like at that point in time, like stereotypes of New York City working people. It's like that. It's like always those scenes from every single Spider-Man movie where like oh, if you mess with New York, you're gonna mess with all of us. Like everyone's like, all right, it's some rich asshole that died. No one really
Right.
cares that much. You know, and like no one really gave a damn. If anything, I think the one thing that would have like now that I'm thinking about it, would have like fit into that would have been, the big sick that happened, that basically closed the world down for a little bit.
Yeah, how
Um,
was that? That's what I was gonna ask, and then when they
I
finally did let us leave, we
Mhm.
actually were
Yeah,
it was weird.
I so the irony was that at that point in time, me and a couple of friends had gone to Atlantic City, and that was the first time I went. And we had a good time, it was just drinking and going on. Like I was occasionally looking at the news with a friend of mine, and like the last day that we were there, like, oh, looks like they closed everything down. And like I
Right.
worked I worked in IT and I was like already kind of set up to work from home, and like even beforehand I was already kind of setting people up to work from home because not that many people were thinking about it at my job for certain kind of functions, but I was able to like make sure they were set up. But like for people that were definitely closer into the city, like, I agree. There were sirens all the time. It was crazy. But like the other side of it was like the city was so empty, like it was so eerie, but like very interesting. It's like if someone made New York City into like a set for a show or like for a movie or something like that, you can walk in and there'd be no one there. Those pictures of Times Square where no one's around during COVID was like super cool just to be able to, see it happen. But like part of me also wanted to go out and go there. Um, but like I was still I'm still living at home, and I was still living at home then. So being able to wake up and kind of just go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning for a few years was great because like working there kind of sucked, and being able to not have to spend so much money to, do transit or food every day was great. But I'm also
Right.
very lucky that I was able to keep my job, unlike other people, you know, because like the way they classify, essential workers was kind of like all over the place. A lot of New
Yeah,
York's
right.
a lot of New York is still like a service city, so like it's all restaurants and maybe like computer repair stuff. It's not like there's a lot of manufacturing happening, and if there is, it's like random crap, like seamstresses or random carpentry stuff. It's not like it would be back in the heyday where like they're kind of gutting fish constantly for like a large population. A lot of it would probably be local manufacturing for the city or like
Yeah.
specialized clients. I mean, they're like not really. Like there are probably people that know the connections to the connections, but like it's not as prevalent as you think it is. But like I definitely have my own conspiracy theories of like it's not just like obviously New York gets the grip of like the Sopranos and the Italian mob, but like there are probably so many other things that are going on that we don't know about. Because like I was watching something from Wired the other day, how like there's like Chinese gangs in Chinatown and Manhattan that are like doing crazy shit
Oh,
all the
yeah,
time. I mean, I wouldn't even know if they're triads because like the like NYPD like lists so many different gangs. Like I don't know who has what affiliation, but like large and small, they're definitely hiding it well. Occasionally there still is that restaurant that has nobody going into it. you know, where
Yeah,
it's like,
the
why do you
front.
even exist? Why are you here? It's not really that bad. Like and if it is bad, it's behind the scenes. No one's doing like
Right.
crazy, Valentine's Day massacre type shit, Yeah, it's not. I mean, maybe, it's a lot of ideas of why crime went down is more of like, hey, everyone has a job. I think it's not necessarily all the time because Giuliani did anything good. Giuliani did what he did.
Yeah.
It's and if anything, a lot of his heroism is probably tied to 9/11. But even then, nowadays, he melted in the sun
Yeah.
in front of the Three Seasons, and I was like, oh man, like what?
Yeah,
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's not
that's
in
a.
the history books, like, you
I
have to
mean,
find
yeah, you gotta really look for because like at the end of the day, the mafia wants money. And,
Mhm.
Mussolini was gonna stop it. And like you're 100% right. There's always gonna be backline connections to everything. Having friends in high and low places is always good in some ways.
Now the
Yeah,
government are releasing shit saying like,
it's
"Oh, yeah,
more
you were right,
a
motherfucker."
lot of people always like because like you're talking about the JFK files, right? That's that
Yeah,
that
well,
that
yeah,
are getting
amongst
released
other
now.
things, I mean, there's more
Oh
than just the
yeah,
J
oh yeah. I mean, like a lot of that stuff was probably already kind of like theorized by certain people, but now like it's getting confirmed. It's
Mhm.
the government. If run a certain way, isn't necessarily to be trusted. J. Edgar Hoover was always going to be a piece of shit, regardless of who was going to be president. It's whether or not how much the president was going to care at the end of the day about it. But yeah,
That's a fact.
when it comes to mob stuff, it's not really it's probably there, but it's not in your face to the point where like everyone's paying attention. There's a whole neighborhood of like super rich houses and the neighborhood's Russian. It's like I never see any action in these houses. And like part of me thinks, maybe it's all like summer houses for the Russian mafia or some dumb shit like that. But that's
Yeah,
I
they
have I have no proof. I
right.
have
No,
no
those are
proof.
just
Yeah,
wasted
because it's
property.
it's it's an asset. It's an asset
Right.
to how do I describe it? It's an asset to like make their money physical. Billionaires Row in New York City is proof of that. Hold on, where like there's a whole strip of I want to say Central Park that is just crazy high-rise condos, and like it's just no one's living in them. Like every time we see something kind of come around in New York City as like an apartment building, more often than not, it's some asshole being like, "Oh, it's luxury rentals." It's like, but nobody can afford that unless you're specifically targeting certain people. You know?
Right, which
N-
you'd be some shit like
Yeah,
that,
like
and that's why it's overlooking Central Park.
yeah, and like again, like no one lives in them. They're all super pencil thin. They're all gigantically high. It's all a way to it's all a way to probably do some fucking money laundering that no one gives enough of a fuck about because they think that it's going to trickle down to somebody. When at the
Right,
end of the day,
touche.
it's just another way to avoid putting money in a bank account that can actually be traced properly until someone does an appraisal on the condo or something.
All the
It's
ICE and the
it's
immigration. Can
it's
you tell
every
us a little bit about that?
yeah, I mean like percent okay, so let me start with this. I think everything is very much over exaggerated because when you look at crime relative to percentage of like the population, like there's 8 million people living in New York City. If this place was a war
Right.
zone, it would look like the intro to Predator 2. All right, that's what people think about.
Right.
Like people say a war zone and people think Predator 2 intro. It's like it's not like that. Okay? Like that's crazy. Or people think of like it's the Warriors. Like granted my parents lived through that time where like they kind of saw the dirt and grime of like, the city not taking care of itself, and people not taking
Right,
care
New
of the
York and
city.
the
I mean like it wasn't taken care of, like
like Harlem.
I get it, but like at that point in time it's like all right, if you're going to push people on purpose, and have the
Right,
CIA start
right.
selling crack to people again like they were. It's like, all
Yeah,
right,
and that's what that
it's
shit got released.
I
You know
know.
what I mean?
I know.
Like
I mean at that point it's like who's actually causing the problem then, Cuz like give anybody give anybody an excuse, especially for the cops. It's like, all right, every you're a hammer and everyone that you see is a nail. What do you think your job's going to be?
right. Yeah.
That's not really how you should be trying to treat people with dignity. Obviously, when something's a problem, I'm not saying like don't use it, but like if you're gonna treat everyone like that, then who's the schmuck at the end of the day? You know?
I love that. I love the schmuck. Use that as many times as you want to, bro, because that's gonna be so
Schmuck.
you shit, gang
I
violence in the
I lived
street,
I
outside of the
lived at
norm.
I no. I lived at like one of the shelters. Like the shelter was only accessible by a single bus lane, by a single bus route. And like it was fucked to even put them in there because like, the weather down here gets a little more crazier because we don't have the skyscrapers to like absorb that hit, and they were like it's an open airfield. It's oh fuck, what's the name of it? Excuse me as I look this up right now. It's Floyd Bennett
Good.
Field, and they were in the middle of the Floyd Bennett Field where like the old airstrips would cross over, and they had
Oh,
nothing but
nice.
like a hurricane like FEMA tent to live in,
Right.
They did what they did, a lot of these people are migrants from South America where they came in and they were selling fruit on the side of the road, and that's exactly what they did again. You see a lot of people, selling chocolate or pre-cut fruit or whatever just to get by. If there is violence, like it's proportional to what there's people in the city. Like people thinking they're starting to make
Yeah.
gangs and whatnot, or like they're running around with machetes. I think when it comes to that type of stuff, like I think it's also ironic because like you get a lot of that in Fox News, and Fox News, like their studio's right on Fifth Avenue.
Right.
They're in the heart of Midtown. And like to follow up with the COVID thing, it's like yeah, they were working in New York City, and New York City required you to have COVID vaccinations because like at the end of the day, if someone causes a mass breakout, you could technically sue the company, be like, hey, you caused this. You're a
Damn,
super
I did not
spreader.
know. It's crazy.
Because like think about that. Like if at that point in time, if you're not having anybody vaccinated and you have a shit ton of people in that office building and you're just renting out a single floor, you're going to interact with a ton of people and the air is going to go through. So either the building's at fault or the company that said no is at fault, So
Damn.
whenever
Yeah, you're right.
you heard someone ranting on Fox News at that time during the pandemic, like they were probably already vaccinated because they had to by the state, if they were essential workers or
Right.
whatever. But to get back to your point, like violence is proportional to the amount of people that are in it. Obviously, like you'll see more violence in projects because you got a lot of low income people. If they had a job, no one would struggle to have money because, like, they ran statistics like back in the day Like I want to say like over 20 years ago, if you were a fucking, a gang member, your hourly wage was 25 cents an hour. Like, and this is like, the 90s. So if people were just doing that type of stuff and being okay, it's fine, to like go and get a job and do something, even if you had to, sweep out shit in a barbershop or something, And like the downside is like I have one of those friends that like never is able to hold a job down, but out of pure hubris, he always wants a raise and then immediately quits when he doesn't get it. So, it's not as bad as people say. I really like. Obviously, there's wild shit like the Subway Creatures Instagram account. Like, yeah, Subway will live up to its reputation. I totally have seen a guy, drop trow and take a deuce in the middle of a subway station. There
Down there
aren't
and shit.
yeah. So Kathy Hochul put the National Guard in certain subway stops, but like they kind of just stand around, and then maybe they'll occasionally take somebody to search their bag or probably do some racial profiling shit because that's just how they work. And then
Well,
Eric
yeah, it's
Adams
like they
put
can't really go out, you know. I
no, I
feel
know,
like
yeah.
them being down there is
They
kind of
sit down.
extreme anyway, but
They sit down their presence. That's it's not.
mm,
It's always been an issue of people don't feel safe on the subway because it looks shitty, whatever. And like I feel like a lot of that is dealt with by having a shit ton of janitorial staff that got hired because of the pandemic. They were constantly scrubbing out subway stations as soon as subway cars as soon as they got to the end of their train line. As soon as
mhm.
it got to the end of the stop, because I live by one of those, they had a cleaning crew that kind of desanitized it as much as possible because like the best way to get around the city, when it's not COVID, obviously, because no one's fucking driving around, or technically more people will be driving around, is and still is the subway. The subway. You can pay under $3 to go from one end of the Brooklyn to the end of the Bronx, and not have to get paid. Where like other systems are usually pay as you go for distance. I can transfer between God knows how many trains and get all over the city with just paying $3, so long as I don't, hop the turnstile to get out if I really wanted to.
No, that
So
works.
like, when you walk into a subway station, they have like, a basic like turnstile system where you would scan your Metro card, or well, I mean these days it's scan your Metro card. Back in the day, you used to actually pay with certain tokens, but they switched to Metro cards where you just swipe it and then it would let you click in forward like it's a concert or something. Um,
Oh,
and
okay. Now can you
yeah, they
or is it
recently switched over to being able to accept credit cards, and they have their
ah,
own card system called Omni, OMNY, where like you get your own custom, RFID scanner card that you link to a credit card to like pay. But more often than not, if people have done as before, if they're not satisfied with the service, they skip out. I get it. Everyone does it. I've let people through the fucking the emergency exit door because like they want to get in. I'm not gonna deny people that type of shit. If
who the
people can
fuck are
pay,
you two?
if people can pay, they pay. If they can't, they can't. I'm not gonna fault people, but like more people would have faith in the service if it was treated better. From what I understand, people take money out of the MTA's budget like it's a fucking cookie jar all the time. On top of the fact that like it's super expensive
Oh,
to
I'm sure.
do construction in New York City, that like whenever they try to suggest a new line to do a train, it's like a shit ton of money. Like there was something called the Second Avenue subway extension that would run on the east side of Manhattan. And like that first phase of this of the hold on of the project like went above budget for sure, and a lot of that came from the fact that like the city doesn't directly negotiate in terms of the cost of materials. It's kind of like how everyone discovered Boeing charged the fucking government $10,000 for a soap dispenser. It's the same thing with New York. Like the contractors and the people that provide the materials to make these, projects happen overcharge on purpose to hustle the city out of money. On top of other organizations going into the slush fund that the MTA has to take money out of it to do whatever the fuck they want with it. You know,
So
it's
like
yeah. I mean, the laws would be there to go and fucking change it. It's just no one's going out of their way to change it. It's
because they
yeah, 100%. Like it's all the big business stuff that goes on, and who's ever a big donor for whatever, Republican or Democrat. It's not you got to always follow the money. I very much like Robert Reich is the former secretary, financial secretary, I think, for the Carter administration, and like he's always a good person to kind of keep an eye on because like he knows exactly what he's looking into for financial and whatnot. Like it's always a money thing. Like even the what is it? The stock. There's this app that tracks the stock trades of all the congressmen and whatnot, and like more often than
Oh yeah,
not,
I've seen that. I've seen that.
like that's how people make their money. Like they're already getting hand over fist like 200K to like be a senator and raise their own fucking or like representative, and like then they do all this fucking stock trading shit to go make a shit ton more money even then. It's not. It just depends on what their flavor of how to appeal to people and get their votes.
The
Obviously,
whole weaponizing your empathy and shit.
the fact that the sin of empathy is being used as like a talking point is crazy. Knowing how like it's a lot of Christian stuff at the end of the day. I don't understand. Because like at the end of the day, they'll get all this money and talk beatitudes and whatnot about how Jesus is supposed to be a good person, and then you ask him for some help, and then you end up looking like Joel Osteen, who like turns people away at the church
Good old Joel.
when Texas goes underwater from a hurricane or a tornado or something. I don't think Righteous Gemstones. I don't think I've ever seen it, but
Bro, it's on HBO Max or whatever. It's
I think I've seen coming
Danny
attractions
McBride
for
and
it.
all that.
Yeah, and they're just.
It's
I mean, like
because they took that.
Yeah, it's sad because like they appeal directly to a lot of these people that are either old or very much into their faith. I'm not gonna rag on them too much. I definitely have made more than enough jokes and gotten on somebody's naughty list because I made certain comments about stuff. But like when you go out of your way to take advantage of people financially for this type of stuff and you get treated as a tax haven because like how the government works, like that's crazy. You have all these people doing their fucking billionaire jets and whatnot and gigantic churches and property. It's like, all right, can you guys actually see what's happening here? Who is he actually helping? He's helping himself. Right. He has a private jet. Like
he has a private jet, right?
A priest has a private jet. Do we remember when priests used to be lowly, single, celibate men in a church, wanting to help the sick and poor? Like, do we not remember the animated Robin Hood film that we saw years ago? Friar Tuck's a good man, all right? Like, I'm not asking. Yeah, I'm not. Not saying everyone has to do that, but like you got to stay humble, In America, damn near everything's probably a racket at the end of the day. It's just you got to follow the money and see who benefits from what.
Or is it like
I always liked spicy food. Like when I was younger, there was a place called Big Nose Kate's that was basically like a Texan cowboy-esque saloon out in Staten Island that I went to, and like that's where I guess I really got my first spicy food experience, and I've always loved it. I also
what's your favorite?
What's my favorite? Indian? God, that's so hard because like it's because like everyone has their own like thing. Like I will always order like a tandoori chicken dish for Indian food because like that's always the spicy stuff and it's always so good. But like that doesn't mean I don't enjoy like getting a nice classic Italian dinner. Like my family's Italian American. Let me not say, the only actual Italians in my family are directly my grandparents who moved over here during the 60s. They moved here from Sicily.
I talked about them.
Relax. They, I think I know why they left after looking into it, but it's not that big a deal. They didn't have any connections that I'm aware, and even if they did, I kind of don't give a fuck. They probably be hitting me up for some dumb shit, but I'm not gonna. It's a smile and a wave, It's like, hey, where the good restaurant is? Let me know because you probably bought it out a few times to have a meeting there or some shit like that. But yeah, I mean, go for it. Yeah.
So real quick,
the Columbus Day stuff. I mean, my dad was born in '63. And he was born in America.
You would have been
my grandmother and my grandfather are my dad's side from, and my mom's side is Irish Catholic. I mean, I think it's more of just like, everyone in New York City from the start has always had their time to shine in politics and like the local whatever it is.
Touche.
It used to be German. At the point in time, it was Irish. There's always talks about Tammany Hall and like Irish cops and whatnot. And then like as time goes on, everyone kind of generally gets accepted. And like Italians and Irish are all Catholic. Germans went Protestant. They wouldn't necessarily cross over too much. And if you were English, like, all right, no one really liked you anyway. You're Anglican. It's all. It was that simple for people back then, and then as time went on and different type of group moved into the city, like everything's kind of just fused into a big melting pot. Now, granted, I'm not going to deny the fact that, like, yeah, every ethnic group has their own area where they congregate, but that doesn't mean people don't mix in certain areas as well. Because like everyone has a Chinatown. There's a little Italy, there's a little
Right.
Brazil. There's probably a little Germany, like a little Berlin somewhere, or like
Yeah, in South America, bro.
Queens is like the most diverse borough in the whole place. Like there's like over 100. Apparently, there's like over 100 languages spoken in the city, and a shit ton of them are probably came from Queens. Everyone's
Damn,
got
for
their own.
real?
Yeah,
100?
it's yeah. Let me if anything.
That's
Queens
crazy. I didn't even
diversity.
know.
Yeah, so like, all right, you know what? That's the AI thing I just looked up. AI popped out like over 100 languages spoken. It's all over the place. It's if anything, New York City is unique in the fact that, like, if you were to take like a population wheel of like demographics, like everyone's roughly even. It's always interesting to see. No one's left out. You always get a
Interesting.
different perspective from everywhere. Like I go through Chinatown. I went through Chinatown the other day when driving through, and like you see some of like the Taiwanese flags and the actual like PRCC flags of China. It's like, oh man, I can't wait for like the West Side Story beef to happen. And then like you go through other parts, you get the Puerto Ricans,
Right.
Dominicans. It's sad because like there's a portion of Brooklyn called Flatbush, and it's basically just the main avenue, Flatbush Avenue, going up and down through Brooklyn, and like parts of it got renamed to like Little Caribbean and Little Haiti, but like due to gentrification, I'm seeing white people walk around like they're bold as fucking own this place. And like, man, they just renamed the neighborhood, and like they got you all walking around here. Like, I'm not gonna be able to get my fucking jerk chicken and doubles and triples that I want because like
Right.
it changes the neighborhood. Like, granted, beforehand the neighborhood would have been like Caribbean and Trini and Dominican and whatnot, and not that much of that would have changed. But like now that they moved in and changed the neighborhood a little bit, like, yeah, it's safer, but it's only safer because there's this perception of money. Like they don't go to neighborhoods
Right.
that have money because there's stuff to lose there at the end of the day. But it's like I said, if people have good paying jobs, no one's gonna want to do dumb shit at the end of the day. The only dumb shit they'll probably end up doing is just drinking at the
Right.
club, and having a good time.
Yeah,
Because
fair.
yeah,
Back to
I'm
your
sorry.
food.
Yes, food, exactly. I mean, like
It's okay. I love it. That's why I wanted you
it's
on here.
like I said, it's all over the place, man. Like I said, every neighborhood has their own stuff, and like you'll only find that stuff in that neighborhood, or like someone who's you're friends with from there. Like there's a
Right.
whole area of Manhattan called the Ukrainian Village, and it's all Ukrainian and like
That
vaguely
makes
Eastern
sense.
European stuff. And there's a very famous restaurant there called Savelka, and I'll never get Ukrainian food from there again. Because like there's nowhere else to get
Damn,
it in
for
the
why?
city.
Was it not good?
No, like there's nowhere else to kind of like get it. I might have phrased that wrong, but like there's nowhere else to get it.
Oh.
Go to
So
Chinatown,
who's
everything's
did you
fresh,
have,
favorite.
is it
I
the
mean, like
Indians?
the I think it's just always easy to go to Buffalo Wings because like
You like the sauce, yeah.
the sauce makes the wing for spiciness, and like there was a place in Brooklyn I went to called Wing Bar, and like there's a level of spice that's not on the menu that you can order, and that was the first time that spicy poops have ever happened. And it's like, oh yes, it's real. Because beforehand, nothing was really hitting me like that, and that was the one time it did. And like, you know what? I have to respect this place now. Exactly. Oh
Or which
man.
game that really was
I
like,
oh dude, my parents had a Super Nintendo, and like they had a Game Genie, so I was basically hacking in cheats for Super Mario World God knows how long ago when I was younger. And I was very much I stuck to Nintendo a lot, I was maybe like 4 years old, 3 years old around then, and like it always stuck around like that. And a big reason was because like I assume is that my parents, I have a brother who's handicapped, and like sometimes he would need alone time to go help with therapists and whatnot, and like they kind of just like gave me a playroom to have all my video games and stuff in. And like it was always all that good stuff, all the Nintendo stuff
right.
for a long time. And then eventually what had happened is that my first, I would say, first person shooter was a friend of mine managed to get Call of Duty Big Red 1 on GameCube.
Uh-huh.
And like that was great. I was already more than aware enough of what happened in history that like I was able to play through it and look into it more, and like it was fun to read and like go to the end of the textbook, um, to read that stuff alongside the video game. Because like
Would you say that?
I mean, like it's at least for World War II games. Yeah, I feel like I fit that stereotype to a T. I'm into history. I'm into World War II. I'm into World War II games, like 20th century stuff, and trying to learn as much as I can. Because like I love Mass Effect. Like if I love Mass Effect and Fallout, like those were when it comes to other game
Oh, that's
series
cool.
that I got myself into post-World Call of Duty. It was Fallout 3, then the Mass Effect series, and then the Witcher series, you know. There have been some other games here and there like Pokemon and, Super Smash Brothers that like I've gotten into and played and had fun with, and specific like Nintendo stuff like the Metroid series and The Legend of Zelda. But like when it came to like engaging and being like and having fun with it and having like, thought processing stuff like the Fallout series and Witcher and Mass Effect 3, like always fun. Like those types of RPGs were always great. And then at the same time, back when I was in like middle school and whatnot, I would always play Flash games on like Newgrounds.com and whatnot and kind of see what was around there.
Yeah.
They were good times, But when it came to like the mainline video games, it was always a lot of Nintendo stuff until I start getting my own money to pay for myself. Because like arguably my family didn't know what to get for me, and I knew what I wanted, and then they would still fuck it up. So it's like, I'm gonna get it for myself because you guys can't for the life of you figure it out on your own, I mean, I recently had, because like I knew making your own computer is a shit ton of money. I didn't have that type of money yet, so getting consoles was easier. And like I met one of my very
Oh,
good
okay.
friends that I've known for over like 10 years now, because like he had the same idea. It's like, hey, getting a computer and upgrading it all the time is super expensive, so I'd rather just stick to a console, and just ride that out for as long as it's good, And it's worked out. And hell, like I got a prefab PC that I'm literally using right now to speak to you. So, as time went on, things have changed because there are a lot of good games on PC that I still play, Hearts of Iron 4 is a big one. It's a big, larger World War II sim. Arma's been fun. I got Minecraft and I played that for a little bit recently. It's Total War Warhammer. That was always that's been fun to play.
Now, are you
Kind of
big
all over
into
the
like
place.
what do they call that?
Like the figurine, the books and
Well,
whatnot,
that
fan
to
fiction
the
and
series.
whatnot.
Yeah, with it, like, do you do any
I
of the
I
stuff, or are
only
you
I
just
only
a
got
figure?
I only got into like the video game itself. I like learning about the
Oh,
lore, but I'm not really
yeah, the
that big
lore. That
into
was
it.
another thing I couldn't think of.
Um, if anything, it's more just fun learning what certain individuals you like from it. I found certain characters I've liked in the Total War series that like I latch onto. I like the Skaven. I like Warhammer Fantasy a lot. They're just like they're like megamaniacal rats that like have hyper specific futurish technology that barely works in a medieval setting. So like it's hilarious to me, and they're just
Right.
unredeemably bad. Like there's nothing. It's not complex. There's no complexity. They're all horrible. It's all hilarious. It's fun to learn about that type of stuff and do that. Because like if you were to go into the figurines and whatnot, it's so much money. Like I can't.
It's that much. Damn.
If anything, I'd rather go get Legos and put that together at the end of the day. Because that's
Yeah, oh yeah,
just
Legos the shit.
somewhat still expensive, but like hey, it's all one and done. Speaking of which, I have to go put one together eventually, but the time will come when I have the time to do it.
Was Hell Let Loose in the 508 your first?
So I had Discord from doing Dungeons and Dragons with friends. I was both a player and a dungeon master, game organizer. As for Hell Let Loose, like it was free on PlayStation, and like I basically just had gotten the PS5 like around the time that they had released it, and I needed a game, and I was like, oh, that's free. So I downloaded it, and like it just scratched an itch that I always had because like I would always see people playing Arma online and whatnot and those types of games, but like I never had access to it because all that was on PC.
Right.
So I got it on console and I had a blast. In terms of like game communities, I've always kind of stayed away, even like YouTuber communities and like social media personalities. I've always kind of like stayed away. I don't interact. I'm always more of a lurker. But with Hell Let Loose, I figured I'd join a clan because I wanted to get more of an organized way to play the game. Because like you can, it's possible. I like playing those RTSs to know that like if you had people that can do that, you can go and be effective. It's a 50v50. You have to, with how large the map is. And like a lot of that started out with me playing engineer by myself and doing some basic support stuff. But then in a while, it's like, all right, no one's building garrisons and no one's building OPs. I have to be the asshole to do it. And then eventually got to the point where people noticed that I was good at it enough to be knowledgeable and stuff and not have like perpetual Call of Duty broke brain where like, hey, you can't run into this thing and think you're gonna live immediately. Because like I think a lot of the games like that. Because like I got fed up with Call of Duty a long time ago. Because like it's too small. It's not as realistic as I would want it to be.
Right.
and too quick. Like, my friends would joke about playing on sensitivity 10 and drop shooting all the time. And I kind of like gave up around Black Ops 1 or 2 maybe. I want to say
Right when you
2.
just hit.
Yeah, like I think sliding was the biggest thing that they had put in, but like the game system never felt right. I would aim and I
Fair.
would be accurate, and then like, all right, they wouldn't drop because how the health system evolved in Call of Duty. Whereas in like Hell Let Loose, like you get a hit, they're most likely dead. Very
Right.
rarely do they actually live, unless like you're using a weaker weapon. And like that's what I appreciated, like even hardcore mode in Call of Duty, I don't think would have appealed to me at the end of the day. Now that I'm thinking about it, because like it's too small. Oh
It's a,
yeah, like
even
like
if you
like in
get
Shipment,
nicked.
you popped FMJ
Yeah.
rounds on, and then just like hope that you would hit shit.
And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
like
that, whatever that mechanic is in there, it's
no
like
one no
that's
one
what
can
makes that
barely
game so
no one
enjoyable.
can barely see each other. That's the benefit.
Yeah.
Like because like when you play sniper in Hell Let Loose, like you can just hang back and fucking go to town. It's more of it's more of a military thing where like modern optics really changed how war was really conducted, and like now it's like a must-have. Because
Oh
like
yeah.
like you said, if you're running LMG, you're better off running LMG when you have your officer who has binos next to you, because now you can like more accurately put fire down, rather than kind of just like spraying and praying and then get domed when you're obviously putting yourself out there.
Like
Hmm.
crew
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
when
Oh yeah.
that's
It's just
that's the
it.
beauty of it.
It's
It's
like
like an
it's just
orchestra.
exactly. It just is super cathartic. Now, granted, when it doesn't work, like it's not super devastating because like they had to make it arcadey enough to like make you want to keep playing the game. But like you said, like when a plan comes together and everyone's like being generally aware and playing at like a higher game IQ, like it is beautiful. I remember one time I was doing that type of stuff on a Stalingrad match, and like there was just a random tank column that had formed because like we kept the German Panzer IV and the Lux together, and like we stayed alive and had fun. It was great to see, and like it all. Granted, at the end we play as smart, not really, but like that point, like whose fault is that? Everyone kind of just
Right. You
wants
get
to.
those.
Yeah, and I think that's another aspect of the game. Like the game looks decent enough that you can go do that type of stuff, and like everyone wants that. Everyone kind of gets enthralled with like the highly edited TikToks and shorts and stuff. Like, oh, I want to do that, and then like they get
Mhm.
frustrated when they try to run and gun and they realize the map is like fucking, what is it, 5 or something? It's like over 1,000 meters, north and up and down and left and right. Where it's like, holy shit, scale is a lot bigger than what they would expect, and they haven't adjusted to it yet.
That's what.
Yes,
Did you come to the 508 after?
that is exactly how I'm one of the original founders with Deimos and Plem, Deimos, Plem, Ace, and two others, Grim and Devil. So what had happened was that I joined 101A, I hung around for a little bit, and I got, promoted to whatever their level was. But like they specifically were very, from what I recall, they very much separated themselves from the PlayStation players on purpose. And like the crew that we were in were all PlayStation players. Myself, Plem, Deimos, whatever. Deimos was in charge of us, and then, Plem was in there and some others, and Ace. And it was fun. We played around, and then we actually played like somewhat of an organized match, and we got our asses kicked, and, everyone in the 101A was like very whiny about it, and they even got to the point where like, oh, you have to play specifically with certain weapons to be more realistic. You can't all play with semi-automatics or like the MP40 when you're the Germans. You have to like
Oh, so
overwhelmingly
you'd have
use
to
the
get like
car.
squad.
Yeah, like they tried to actually like play more historically accurate, and everyone was like, that's fucking boring. We just want to play the game, And on top of like some other dog shit decisions that happened, Plem managed to speak out and, got singled out because he was like, being a fucking human being. It's like, hey, this is stupid. You guys are taking this way too seriously. Like why? Like why? We just want to play the game and have fun. You're like really being anal about shit. And that kind of stuck with us for a while, because then after a point in time, they rebranded themselves to Task Force Saber in the Discord, and everyone's like, something's happening. This is not good. It's way too futuristic. It's way off the bat. Of what the original, idea of the clan was, and then they kicked all the PlayStation people out, and then rebranded themselves, to my knowledge, as an Armor Reforger clan. And then from
Damn,
there,
what the fuck?
yeah, exactly, because PlayStation 5 didn't have Armor Reforger at the time, and we tried to salvage as much people together as we could, and kind of put ourselves in a Discord server that Plem. I was relatively savvy with knowing how Discord worked, mainly because I could fucking read and have patience. And like I set up as much as I could, including the bots and whatnot, to make things work and be reasonable. And we kind of just sat down and took a bit to like figure it out. You know, it's like, hey, we're not necessarily a named clan yet, but we are a clan. We're gonna figure this out as time goes on. You know, we want to make sure everyone's having fun
Yeah.
and not, you know, really up to their ears in paperwork or trying to do stuff. And that's ironic because, you know, today, like, we have so many people that, like, we're trying to, you know, not do that as much as we have done in the past. Granted, it's more about submitting certain things, but, you know, these days I write the papers on how the game works, probably along with Steiner and whatnot. But you know, it's not as stringent as it was. You know, I've always, you know, I'm the asshole in the group that's like, go outside, touch grass, stop playing the game. You know, because there was a time where like I burned out before I joined the 508 and the 101A, where like I burned out from the game. I didn't play for like a few months. You know? I was like, I can't do
Right.
this. Like it's annoying to have to. It's annoying and frustrating to have to try to like rally people together to fucking actually play the game and make it work. You know, in objective-based games, I want to win. Like I want to win the game and like
Yeah.
get and not have to worry about kills and whatnot. Now, granted, it's, you know, part of the nature of the game that you have to like take enemy presence off. You know, the objective and whatnot. But like you get in a good position, you could just fucking, you know, slap.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, that's like probably one of the bigger reasons why like I joined the original 101A first and like wanted to make the 508 work, because like I wanted to play the game and like have a good time doing it and cooperate. And it's been pretty decent ever since. You know, I've tried to, you know, I feel like I'm a dark horse, and I don't think dark horse is the right word. I think I'm very much probably deemed a contrarian when it comes to certain opinions on how we should go forward with certain things. Is like I'm more concerned about people having a good time and wanting to come back. You know, not necessarily having to be super sweaty all the time. Like, granted, there are times for it. You know, you can probably do it, have fun with it, but like, you know, you get too into the weeds. You're gonna mistake the forest for the trees and not have a good time with the game. You know,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Fair enough on
because like,
that.
and this is also one of the few people that never signs up for a competitive match, and yet there are times where like I show up because I know they have to and they need somebody. You know, I try to
The
balance my real
last
life
dude,
as much as
that
possible. Yeah, like
I'll
if I
come
have
in and
nothing to do
join.
and I have nothing planned, you know, that's fine at the end of the day. It's also because like I know that they know I know my shit, because like it's a matter of game mechanics and experience that really kind of helps people get better at the game. It's being able to like put that into people's heads is the fucking problem. You know, and if anything, that's what I was talking to. That's what Koshi and I were talking to about, you know, earlier. We're like, hey, like we have general strategy down. It's just that everyone kind of just still sucks at the game. Everyone still kind of sucks at the game a little bit, because they need to slow down and like really think about how they get better and how people will move in the map. It's always the same map every time, so like it's not like things are going to change dramatically. You know, you just got to get used to that flow of, you know, people moving. And like, you know, in my experience, playing as a squad lead helps with that a lot, because like, all right, you know where the enemies are. Now it's just a matter of being able to figure it out and, you know, work that to your advantage. You know, do you take a flank on them? Do you suppress them? Do you surprise them with explosives? Yada yada yada. You know, I mean, hey man, I trust me.
I mean, I know you still are, but you know what I mean. Like you
Squeaky wheel
switched
gets
your
the
name and
grease.
shit.
I very much cry and bitch about a lot of stuff when I can. If anything, I'm the first. In certain situations, I'm the first to it, you know, and trying to make sure, like, structurally, we're fine. You know, when it comes to certain opinions, like, yeah, I put my stuff forward, you know, but I'm not gonna hyper fight about it, because at the end of the day, admin, you know, I'm trying to make sure the Discord server's okay and working for everybody. But you know, when it comes to, you know, game mechanics, like, there's very few other people that I think are more hyper aware of what's going on and try to how to make that, you know, make it work to our advantage. Because like how I
Yeah,
play the game,
Steiner beat me.
yeah, like hell, like if you look in the SOP section of the server, I made half those, you
Mhm.
know, at least
Oh
the
yeah,
ones that
yeah, oh
I've
yeah,
written
I've
down.
seen
Like
him.
that's the type of shit that I want to make sure everyone knows, because like if people were like baseline knowing stuff, they'd be so much more effective at the game, you know, without having to like win gunfights one on one.
You still
Yeah.
can't fuck.
I mean, I get frustrated, but like also it's to the point of like, you know, some people don't want to take the game that seriously. It's like that's fine. I get it. You know, that's why like I have my times where like I would goof off and we do Baron's buildings and just engineer the shit out of a fucking point. Because like people just want to come together and have a good time, and at least like work on a goal that's feasible, not just like unless the goal is to meet grind into a point. and you have people willing to do it, that's like you can't always do that. It's frustrating, like you got to be able to turn your brain
Right.
off, and if I'm able to shift myself into that mood, that's fine, because I know what the bigger goal is at the end of the day. But you got to make sure you're ready
How did
for it.
you
I mean,
the
it's
cycles?
I
How the
say
cycle been, I
I
guess?
think it's healthy, like it's good to see some people stick around longer. I think the major shifting changes to the NCO core is always a shock because I will attach myself to those guys more than I will some lower level guys because there's so many. Like there's over
Right.
200, like it's, and also like people have to make themselves stick out. If they're coming around all the time, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to know you. Like I think yourself and Horsecock are yourself and Horsecock are good examples of like, guys are always around and coming around and having fun. Eastwood would always play
Yeah.
a ton. If anything, that's like half the reason why some people manage to get, you know, higher, ranking in the command structure. Anyways, they're coming around and being present. And like I always thought it was good to make sure that we still have the flexibility of people that do and don't want to do it. Like Ace and yourself specifically. Like, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. We just want to be able to hang around and like play games with you at the end of the day because we know you're fun. And we don't want to like, if anything, that's half the reason why fucking Historian is around so long. He's another one of those original people that's been so around for so long that we occasionally see every once in a while. And
Yeah.
like, he's just like hanging around and having a good time. We don't want to lose you, but do we want you active? Of course, But it's a matter of keeping certain people around and making sure that everyone's having a good time.
Like,
It's yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah, exactly.
every
I 100% get it. Like I mean, like I'm happy that we've kind of moved away from making NCOs like mandatory. Mandatory like points and whatnot, because like it was just not like I always wanted it to be lower anyway. It's like people have lives, at the end of the
yeah.
day. Like making them do something like once a week for 4 weeks is gonna suck. It's like, yeah, just give them a fucking week. Like who cares?
That on but
Yeah.
then
Oh no,
you
yeah.
get other team leads that
Oh
are
yeah,
what?
no.
Joe Blows
Yeah,
telling
because
you,
it's your friends.
like
I totally get it,
yeah.
And like that's why like I've tried to make sure I've fomented like the idea and the policy when it comes to command chats. Like in most cases, it's an open hand and it's an open door. Obviously, we've had certain
Yeah.
situations where that has not developed to that extent, a few times, and like those people that did leave and we've kicked out have only proven themselves to be problems in other places as well. So it's you can only bite the hand that feeds you so many times without it finally coming to fuck you at the end of the day. And
Right.
like
Yeah,
and it hurts. It sucks to see some people go, but like we're only people. We're only voices over the internet at the end of the day when it comes to that. So it's not like I've got to pay you a bill or pay you rent. If you come back, that's great. And we get to bullshit and kind of hang around and do good stuff. It kind of it's the I mean this is even applicable to real life friendships, but like it's the trials and tribulations that are on the way that kind of prove your worth to friends and relationships. Because like I've got a guy
yeah.
I've known on PlayStation for over 10 years now, and we're Facebook friends, and like only recently have we started playing again after Destiny because of Helldivers, and like it's good to see and hear from him again, and shoot the shit with him and see him evolve as a person to some degree,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the same
And that's
goes
what I
here.
was saying. Good
Yeah,
luck, you
I
see
mean,
me.
yeah, exactly. Like, do people have their own personal issues with stuff? Yeah, it's like, but how much are you gonna really let that shit bother you? Like, if anything, again, like this is why I keep telling people, like, hey, stop playing the game. Go play something else. Go take a day. Stop giving a fuck about this. I know you want it to be
Right.
good, but like, and then I guess this is also my general feelings about the competitive sweaty side. Is like, if you want to play this game so hard that you're willing to fucking ruin yourself about it, then like, is it really worth it? You know, we've had plenty of those people, leave and do that type
Yeah.
of stuff, and like it's sad, but
You can see it happen.
whatever. Yeah, if anything, like I'm still happy that everyone's on good terms with Glass and Senpai, even though they left for arguably greener pastures to be more sweaty. But like they did it well, and God bless Nate Palmer for stepping up and being the G that he is. And honestly, like the quality of armor hasn't dropped since. Arguably have gotten basically to the same level, maybe even better, with how we always hear shit about DMT and such. And even the same thing with the EU guys. It was wild to
Yeah,
think
that
that
was
some
another good thing
it
to see
was
the big
yeah.
thing.
I mean, like we facilitated their departure, and we always had eyes on them. Plum will tell you. Plum, if you ever talk to Plum again, he'll probably tell you about it. We're like, we they, honors came to us about it, and we're like, you know what? We appreciate this, and this was also around the same time the adrenaline stuff happened. But like, we appreciate this. And like they needed to operate on their own anyway, because like beforehand, like they were kind of spread all over the place. Like it doesn't make sense to separate these people when we know their time zone is fucked. Like keeping them separated is going to make them disincentivized to play the game and have fun with each other because they can't even contact each other. So like keep them together and keep their their relationships together, because like even like it was like they never even have left the 508 or come back, because like even when in their own server when they were together as the Dragoons, they were fucking around and doing the same thing that they're doing in Dog Squad and House Squad as we see. So it's good to see all that type of stuff happen and the relationships form well, which is why I secretly want to make sure everyone has their own time zone squads to begin with, for West Coast to East Coast. But we would have
and it's fun. You know what I'm saying?
It definitely solves the purpose that we need, because like we're very stilted towards Eastern Standard Time for the East Coast of the U.S. So like we needed a solution for them, and like it's not like we were ever against it. It's like, all right, let's make this work, because they need it, and I'm happy that like they got that name, because I had no idea what the fuck it was going to be. It's like Tea Time was stupid. They wanted Tea Time. I was like, that's horrible. That everyone's in the UK,
It's horrible.
Some guys in Northern Ireland, he's not going to appreciate it. We've had Istrik who's in Romania.
Right.
We have somebody in Romania and Spain. Like it's all over the place, and we have a bunch of Dutch guys too now. So it's like, let's just figure it out. And they said NATO, and that fucking worked. I'm happy it did.
Baby.
Yeah, you gotta get people together to do stuff.
Future.
I mean, we don't have any reason to go away, and I think we would really need to examine this when Hell Let Loose dies. That will be. Do I think it ever will? I mean, like the original game guys moved on from it and sold it to Team 17, who's from Black Matter, who did the Worms series. So I don't know. I mean, maybe give it another 2 years and we'll see where we'll probably have a more solid answer on that. But like, I've tried to make sure that like we have as many people playing other games as possible. Like we have a bunch of people playing Helldivers. We have a bunch of people playing Monster Hunter. Remember, there was the time to try to do the 508 Dungeons and Dragons thing, but like I wasn't able to get it together because timing was just fucked. But like I think the community will stay here strong as long as Hell Let Loose is alive. After that, it might splinter a little bit, because it's like, all right, they're not supporting the game anymore. Like, how competitive are people going to be if they reduce support for the game? If anything, like it will be longer because people can buy their own servers now. But like we don't know when the last update's going to be, or like if there's going to be a Hell Let Loose 2. Like if that ever happens, that'll be the thing to worry about. Because like I mean, we've seen with previous Call of Duties and whatnot that they've like as soon as the new one comes out, it dies and they move on to the next one.
But
I
branching out and doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no reason not to get more personal with people, unless they like specifically want to stay away, which I understand. It's just a matter of everyone playing the games together. Like I was talking to Christmas the other day about the new Monster Hunter game, and I'm trying to get stuff together for that. And like, we have a decent amount of people playing Armor Reforgers, so honestly, we could easily just shift over to there, as time goes on to like fuck around and have fun. It's just a matter of people's patience, because that's
that would be a crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it, because I know I would want to go and do a. Oh God, I'd want to do the DMs for the sessions and whatnot, because that's great. It's just a matter of getting a shit ton of fucking people in a single server, because those servers are way more like unstable because of the way that they load the game. That's for sure.
Right.
But it'll be fun. I've got it. I've got it. I bought it on my PC, so like I can very easily DM, and even some of the EU guys have their own Armor Discord server to like coordinate in there. It's just that timing's fucked, because
Right.
they're home most of the.
Where
do I see myself? Oh man, 40. I really want to have a house.
Still be in New York?
Oh hell yeah! Either like long-term goals, I want to have that White House with picket fence. Whoever's in it. Married? That'd be nice. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have moved on from the idea of marriage, but I definitely want to have.
Oh yeah, fuck that. You never see me.
It's not the marriage itself is not the thing that matters at the end of the day. It's more the person that's with you at the side. I'm hoping that the person I'm with now would be someone that I'm able to be with for the long term, because she's amazing. Like after that, I just want to. I don't have any debts. You know, I want to be able to go to this new job and get paid well, and help these people out. Because like at the end of the day, it's all about like just living life the way you want to. You want to be able to do what you want to do when
Facts.
you can. You know.
Facts.
Granted, do I want to have to do I have to might work for it for a little bit for money wise? Yeah, you know. Do I want to live in the lap of luxury and go crazy like a bunch of other billionaires do that we all see online and in the world? No, they're not fulfilled. You know, they have everything available to them and they still need more or they don't get it. You know, they're dragons sleeping on their hoard and they're still fucking going crazy because they feel like they don't have it.
Freedom. Not the
That
the freedom.
the dream retirement of living on a beach in Mexico or something like that. That you know,
Going crazy shit.
I
Like,
exactly. You know, I very much envy a lot of the people that I know that are Caribbean in New York because they're able to have like the dual citizenship or
mm-hmm.
like be like straight up, you know, foreign non-citizens and like they have the exchange rate where they can just go buy houses in like Jamaica or like Dominican Republic and like just build up and have something nice, you know. Granted it comes along with, you know, the country that they're coming from, but like it it would be nice, you know. I would have hoped to go on a nice international trip as well to Europe, but we'll see how the world develops in 10 years because I'm not going to fucking Russia anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. No. Definitely.
Ugh,
Are you?
everyone's a person at the end of the day, man. I think hold on, there's a fucking word for it. There's a German word for it where like you realize where everyone has their own life. Yeah, where like everyone has their own life, everyone just wants to like, you know, live their life. Oh, it's Sonder. Yeah, Sonder. It's like everyone has their own vivid, crazy life. Everyone's their own. You know, as much as everyone thinks they're their own main character, it's like no, everyone kind of just wants to live in peace at the end of the day. You know, like I have a little more empathy than what you'd expect, and I think it goes it goes a lot longer than you'd expect. But yeah, chill
I
out,
love it.
have a good time, and just help everyone live life together.
There you have it.
Otherwise, I'm gonna curse for you. I'm gonna curse everyone out. It's all right. I'll fucking do it.
But
Yeah,
as
sure.
for bass, that was a good time.
You let me know and I'll prepare things, man. You know, I'm not against having a harder conversation, you know, but
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
can't lead with that type of shit. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I'll see you, Gorilla. Thanks for having me.